All Bobby all the time.
And we talked to Bobby during the March Madness. And now we're bringing in athletics fan, sporting the hat, Bobby Gerald, to join us. It's Dave, it's Jason. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How about you?
Great.
How are you, Jason? You good?
I'm good.
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Got an hour left.
Yeah?
Yeah. Looking forward to dinner tonight. A little hungry. Maybe some brunch. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about the Kings first and foremost, Jason. What do you say? Let's lead off with that.
Bobby's always got ideas on the Kings.
Okay, Bobby, could you tell us exactly and be specific what the Kings are going to do this summer, who they're going to trade for, and will they have a draft pick? Go.
Sure. No, I wish I did know all that stuff, right? But of course I don't. You want to know what I think they should do?
Yeah. Yes.
So not everyone agrees with this, and I've talked about this before, but I think Domantas Sabonis has got to be a 4 in the NBA if the Kings are ever going to get past the 40 to 48 win plateau. I just feel like, we've seen over the last 3 years about what this team can do playing at their best with Domas as a center. And I like Domas. I mean, this isn't me bashing him at all. I think he has uncommon toughness and a lot of skill. And I think that his newfound comfortability, is that a word? Comfortability?
We'll make it one.
Yeah.
All right. He's more comfortable now shooting the 3-point shot than he used to be, and he makes 41% of these shots now. And if you look around the NBA, there's a lot of teams playing the two bigs, two big lineup, and it seems to be having a lot of success. And so I think there needs to be a legitimate 2025 NBA type athlete, shot blocker that you can, be a vertical threat with, and someone who can help, tighten up that defense quite a bit. So that would be my line of thinking. If I was the Kings, I'd be trying to do whatever I could. And, Jonas Valanciunas is on the roster, but he doesn't move, the way that he even used to move 5 years ago. And he's not going to get any faster. And he ended up having a negative defensive rating last year, Valanciunas did. So I think when you look at all that kind of stuff, it just cries for having someone who's big that you could play alongside Sabonis, get out there and make Sabonis a 4, and then the defense would be better. And I imagine, when I look at Sabonis, imagine him as an interior passer throwing lobs to someone who can actually finish lobs and make dunks around the basket. I just think that would be probably the first place I would look.
So I guess I have two thoughts on this. A follow-up on the first part of that, Bob, is any player or players you have in mind that you think the Kings could target to fill that 5 spot that you think would marry well with Sabonis? And then the second part is there's a lot more than just that, with DeRozan, Levine, cleaning up some of the guards, needing a point guard. Just kind of where else do you think this team might you think they should look?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot that can be done. I think the free agent center market is not that good. Most of the names are declining in value with aging bodies. So if you look at a player like Al Horford or Brook Lopez, that's exactly what I wouldn't want the Kings to do. I think you kind of already had that in Valanciunas, someone who's on the downside, who's a big spacer. So, Day'Ron Sharpe from Brooklyn is someone who's an underrated passer and decision maker. He's not scared of contact. He's only 23 years old. He's a restricted free agent and that has, room to grow. That's the kind of guy that I would be interested in. I think he's a really good passer. I think the Kings need to find some value. That's the deal in the NBA right now is find some value. Don't overpay for aging guys that have no room to grow. I mean, the Kings need to have some guys that we can put some faith in that, in 2 or 3 years, they could blossom into really being something. So I like Day'Ron Sharpe from that standpoint. If that didn't pan out, Clint Capella, I think could be a reasonable fallback. He's regressed, but I think he's still more capable than Horford or Lopez. A guy like Luke Cornett, who's a quality backup in Boston. These aren't home run type type plays here. We're just talking about getting somebody who can do those things to allow Domas to move down to the 4 spot. So that would be me. And then, of course, they could go into the draft, and if they really are going to move into the 20s, maybe they have somebody targeted there that they think could fulfill that need. And it's also entirely possible that I'm just out to lunch and this is not even something that they're thinking about. That's probably the most likely scenario.
No, I like where you're going. I understand that when it comes to discourse surrounding teams, the thing that gets the most hits and the most conversation are the big names, but those big names become incredibly complicated. So it's like when we were talking about, well, if they're looking for a point guard, what if Chris Paul is the guy? As funny as it would be, Lonzo Ball, and I'm not advocating either. I'm just saying those are not sexy names. What about Mark Williams with Charlotte? And I understand that health is an issue, but I'm just kind of going with your flow here of guys that might be in distress or might be on the cheap. He's 23 years old. He's 7 foot. His measurements are off the chart. He just doesn't play a lot, but is that a guy you'd take a flyer on if the price was right, or does he not fit that bill?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in the Mark Williams fan club for sure. He's on my fantasy team, guys. He's someone that I've liked for a long time. The injury part, yeah, certainly would scare me. So you'd need to be really sure, with all the medicals and everything, that you think he's going to be good to go going forward. But yeah, I love Mark Williams. I just think that he's someone, he's going to cost you. You know what I mean? He's not someone that I don't think you're just going to be able to go out and get like a, and Mark Williams is way more the player than Day'Ron Sharp is right now, or Jalen Smith from Chicago is someone else who still has upside at the age of 25. Maybe with some consistent minutes, he could be something. There's a kid in Washington, Tristan Vukcevic, that I think is still raw, but it has some really intriguing long-term potential with a 7'2.5" wingspan, but he's more of a reserve player right now. So, those are some of the guys that I would be looking at there. And then as far as the rest of it goes, yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to win games with DeRozan in 2025. He's a 2-point scorer, a mid-range master, and as good as he was down the stretch, and as much as the Kings leaned on him at times down the stretch, he's still a guy that shot well below the average of 36%. That's the league average of 3-pointers in the NBA. And so, what do you do with him? I think either he needs to become a 6-man or you need to trade him. And I would probably be looking to trade him. And I think, he's making $24.5 million. That's not super ridiculous to make him untradeable, in my opinion. I don't know that for a fact, obviously, but I would think that he would be tradable for something.
Jason, I figured it out if you wanted to, by the way. Sacramento Kings trade DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, and Devin Carter to the Charlotte Hornets, along with 3 first-round picks, 2 of them unprotected, for LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams. Roll out a lineup of Sabonis, Williams, Keegan, Zach LaVine, and LaMelo Ball. Bob, we're done, right? That's it. Let's win a title.
That would be pretty good if LaMelo played any defense at all.
I know.
You know what I mean? But maybe Mark Williams is back there to protect him all of a sudden. But a LaMelo, Zach LaVine backcourt would be about the height of disinterest as far as defense goes. So I'm not. So I see. LaMelo's a good player. Obviously, I mean, he really is a talented guy. He just personally wouldn't be the first guy I would choose in going after a point guard, and for that reason, I just don't think he's a defensive minded guy, and I think that Doug Christie. I mean, we know Doug. We know what Doug's gonna want. So, I don't think there's a perfect answer out there as far as free agency is concerned. Ty Jerome is someone I've mentioned before. People have some questions about whether or not he's really a 1. People think he's more of a scorer, more of a 2. I think your point guard should have some scoring capability. I mean, De'Aaron Fox certainly wasn't just a straight point guard. So I like Ty Jerome. I don't know what he's going to cost, but his contract is up after this. Josh Giddey, He's going to be a restricted free agent, so you figure Chicago's going to re-sign him, and he would cost big money. But he's someone that I would consider. I think D'Angelo Russell is risky, but he's capable. I don't think his talent went anywhere. It's just can anyone unlock that talent?
Sorry.
Can Bob? Can LaMelo? Not LaMelo. Can LaVine be a better version of LaVine here with DeRozan maybe being gone and or a new point guard, like a true point guard? Well, how much would that benefit Zach LaVine here, you think?
I think he could be just having a training camp with Doug too ought to help and maybe tighten up some of his defensive inefficiencies, if that's possible. And playing with a point guard, I think certainly would be a big deal for everyone on the Kings roster. A good point guard really can set the table, get you calm down, get the floor space properly, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. I don't think Chris Paul, by the way, you mentioned that in passing, Dave. I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world either. I mean, he's a guy that absolutely knows how to play. He can be a coach on the floor. As much as Doug likes to play a free-flowing, not really call plays type of a deal, just go out there and play and read and react. I think Chris Paul, his intelligence would make some sense. I mean, obviously he's on the downside, but if we need and it seems to be the hot term these days, a bridge point guard, then that might be your guy in the year 2025.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I want to mention, by the way, Bobby Gerald joining us. You can check out all his stuff at hoopobsession.com. I want to make sure we plug that in there. Yeah, it sounds the heavy rumors that he wants to go back to Southern California. Obviously, the Lakers have their point guard Luka Doncic, although that'd be interesting rotationally. Maybe going back to LA to the Clippers as a backup to James Harden. But I am completely with you there. Now, let me ask you this though, and this is one of those keep it simple, stupid comments, but I know there's a lot more to it, Bobby. The Kings have, and all, you were just talking about LaMelo Ball and defense or lack thereof, along with Zach LaVine. I could not agree with you more on that. Well, the Kings have one of the best defensive guards in the NBA in Keon Ellis. And they also have a guy that Monty McNair drafted largely for his defense. This is a guy whose comps coming out of college were largely Marcus Smart types in Devin Carter. Is it, or by the way, they also have the former number one pick in the draft who was drafted ahead of Jason Tatum and De'Aaron Fox and Markelle Fultz. But that aside, this big question about point guard. You have Domantas Sabonis, who is Diet Jokic, who is going to. Does Sabonis allow you to train guys like Ellis and Carter to be that point guard of the future, or is that just too simple?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel I've always kind of felt like point guards are kind of almost born. You know what I mean? You're born with that. There's a few guys that have reversed it as they've gone along. Cade Cunningham comes to mind. He's a guy that actually had more turnovers than assists in college. And so when people were talking about he's going to be a point guard in the NBA, I was kind of like, I don't know. And I was absolutely wrong. I mean, he's grown into that and become that. But I also think there's a different talent level between Cade Cunningham and Keon Ellis and Cade Cunningham and Devin Carter. So right now, I would continue to roll as if Keon and Devin Carter are both two guards. I just think that's what I see in their game. But you could probably do a lot worse than having Keon because, you need a guy out there, especially if you're going to have Zach LaVine, and Keegan Murray. And if, we don't know what's going to happen with DeMar, but there's so much shooting already on this team that you kind of need a guy who's just ready to, play defense and do whatever the team needs, someone who doesn't need to have plays run for them. I've always thought that was something that this version or this latest, last 2 or 3 years version of the Sacramento Kings has needed is someone who can just be an athlete, defend, run the floor. You never have to run a play for them, finish at the rim, do that kind of stuff. I just think it's the thing that this team is probably lacking the most outside of a legitimate 2025 NBA style center that runs the floor, dunks, and does all those things that a good center does.
Maybe a guy that's maybe fast at that position.
Yeah,
exactly. To the rim, maybe capable of scoring 60.
Right.
How can hit shots in the clutch. Yeah, I don't know. We keep on the lookout.
Yeah. So don't find those guys everywhere, do they?
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the draft. Obviously, this is something you've watched all the college games. You watch all these guys. You have your own. It's not really your own thoughts on the board. But what I like to ask you, Bob, every year is, like, Cooper Flagg is everybody's number one. I think there's no doubt about that. But, like, where would he be a comp to other number ones? Like, if the last 10 years of number one picks, is Cooper Flagg the best of them? Would he go number one over Anthony Edwards? Would he go number one over Anthony Davis? Like, just kind of where does he, over Zion, where does he fall in line as far as the past couple of years of number ones?
Before you answer, this is great. Did you see this segment yesterday? Okay, so there was a segment on ESPN, and what they did is they started it last year, and they went all the way back until you got to a guy that you would take number one. So, Bobby, on Jason's question, can I run you through this list of number one picks? And I want to see how far we go back until you say, yeah, I would, and we're not going to count Victor Wembanyama here.
Okay, because I was already going to say Wemby's number one. It's not.
Yes, that's what they did. They skipped over him. Okay, so Paolo Banchero.
Flagg.
Okay. Cade Cunningham.
Flagg.
Anthony Edwards.
Flagg.
And of course, remember, everybody, the game we're playing is not now for this next one, by the way. It's at the time who would have Bobby taken.
Yeah.
Zion Williamson.
Flagg. You could keep going. It would be Cooper Flagg. It's going to be Cooper Flagg the rest of the way for me. Who do you think you could get to that?
I honestly thought you'd struggle with Zion just because of the where he was.
How about AD?
Yeah, how about AD? That's where they.
Okay, that's probably about That's probably about that. The last time I was that confident that someone was going to
really.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, Cooper, he's the real thing, man. I mean, I brought this up to you guys before, I believe, but he led the entire NCAA in box score plus minus. I mean, like the whole, as an 18-year-old. I mean, so he just doesn't have any holes. He shoots it. He has a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. His defensive rating was whopping 5.9 points better than the Duke team defensive rating. He won all the awards. He's right-handed, but he uses his left hand well. He's just strictly about basketball. He plays the right way. To me, is the easiest number one pick since Wembanyama, and then going back a long way before that. It'd be hard for me to see Cooper Flagg failing, barring a catastrophic injury.
So if you were the GM of Dallas, knowing that you have this incredible luxury, but also at the same time, this kind of pick could probably get you most any player in the league. And there's been talk before about Giannis, whether that's legit or not. Would you even flinch at that or say, look, we've already got Kyrie, we've got AD, we've got a good team. When healthy, if we added Giannis or whatever player that is, would you do that? Or you say, no, I can't risk moving Cooper Flagg?
I wouldn't mess with it. Not for Giannis. And it's not like, I mean, I love Giannis. I think he's a great dude. He's good, this and that. But at the end of the day, he's a 22% 3-point shooter, And so Giannis, for me, Giannis needs to be a center, period. The Bucks need to move to Giannis to center, quit screwing around with Brook Lopez and his however old he is right now, and play Giannis at center and call it a day. And their efficiency would rise tremendously, and they might have a chance. But they're screwing around thinking that Giannis is anything but that with his 22% 3-point shooting. I mean, he's just proven it time and time again. He plays best around the basket, near the basket. He's a good defender. There's no reason why he shouldn't be playing center at this point. He's put on the muscle necessary. He's not going to get pushed around. And that's a story for another day. But I feel pretty strongly about that. So yeah, I would just roll with Cooper Flagg, and Anthony Davis doesn't like to play center, but hey, guess what, Anthony, you're playing center, or else we'll trade you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And you're 28% 3-point shooting.
We did this exercise, listening to you scout out Cooper Flag. We kind of did this exercise a couple weeks ago, Jason, and I'm curious as to your take because you've forgotten more about college basketball than most. So in hearing you and hearing so many others talk about Cooper Flag, by the way, disclaimer, I get this is kind of a jive dorky comparison, but it just goes to a lot of the hype. I'm thinking about a guy who at 18 years old went to Duke, was the big man of the year, the ACC rookie of the year, first team all ACC, ACC player of the year, ACC freshman of the year, Pete Newell big man award. Although they're different players, how much would your analysis of a sure thing differed between Cooper Flag and Marvin Bagley?
Quite a bit, because
Okay.
Cooper can shoot the three, and
Okay.
I think Marvin didn't do that. Marvin wasn't near the defender that Cooper is. I think Cooper is just far superior that way. Marvin was probably a more turnovers than assist guy too. You know what I mean? I just think Cooper has a better feel. I still will go to my grave thinking that the Kings never utilized Marvin Bagley the right way. So we could go into those weeds too. It's like I used to get so frustrated. He'd be standing over there in the corner. Whoever it was, the coach at the time, probably Luke Walton, would be like, "Hey, let's go stand in the corner." If you're Marvin Bagley, basically playing like a dead man role. And he would just stand there. And if he got the ball, maybe he could shoot a three. It's like, yeah, let's have our 20% shooter that's great around the basket go stand in the corner and shoot threes. We couldn't even get a duck in. We couldn't get a back cut. We couldn't get, and I know Marvin wasn't the perfect player, but I'll go to my grave thinking he was utilized the wrong way. And I still haven't written off Marvin as a player that can at least contribute in the NBA. We'll see. Hey, he might get to play in Memphis, depending on what they do. They're definitely like, what are they doing? They're screwing around.
Right.
Talking with Bob Gerald.
KCP?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
I tried to tell the Orlando Magic about KCP.
Yeah.
I tried, guys. I really did.
Yeah. As we're talking with Bob Gerald here from hoopobsession.com. So is it clearly like, I mean, you were so high on Cooper Flag, which a lot of people are, and then just a big canyon to the next, or how's like 2 through 7 to 10 in this draft look?
To me, Dylan Harper is a pretty clear 2. The guy from Rutgers, he's 6'5". This is one of Ron Harper's sons. 6'5" with a 6'11" wingspan, can probably play shooting guard and small forward. And just a kid, born in 2006. I mean, some of these kids are 18 and 19 years old. But I like Dylan Harper. He has a way to get to the basket. He's kind of slithery, but smart and strong at the same time. So I like him. I think 1-2 is pretty set. And then Jason, I do think it's open for interpretation after that between Trey Johnson from Texas, who's a really gifted scorer that squares up on his shot so beautifully. VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, who is another like guard wing type guy that's a really good defender and a good athlete. A lot of people like Ace Bailey from Rutgers. I'm a little lower on Ace. I think all he really does is shoot and score. Not a lot there as far as team play, defense, sharing, all those kind of intangibles. But the talent is undeniable. And then after that tier, then you get into some really subjective thoughts about who might go where. It depends. Do you want to take a chance on a guy who's a little older? Are you okay drafting a 22 or 23-year-old, or do you think in the lottery you have to kind of take an upside swing on one of these younger kids? The philosophy of teams will be interesting to see, because there are some players that I think that are ready to come in right now that are really seasoned college players that can come in and contribute and help an NBA team possibly win some games. But in 4 years, will they be better than some of these kids that, like this kid from France, Yon Berenjay, who I think is kind of the darling of draft Twitter right now. He seems to be moving up all the different mock drafts, and he's really raw. He only started playing like 4 years ago, but he has great size, and the way he moves on the floor shows you a glimpse into what might be in the year 2029.
Are the Kings going to get any of them?
Man, so we keep hearing all this stuff, right? The guy Fisher from the Stein line, says that the Kings are going to jump into the top 20. And I was trying to think, who would they be targeting if they were trying to jump into the top 20? And, if a guy like Nick Clifford from Colorado State were to fall that far, he's someone that certainly I think should be considered. He's one of those 23-year-old guys, but actually has a game. And, I'm not the comp guy, but he has a game that reminds me of Doug Christie, a really good defender, good enough on offense, 100% about the team. I think he's someone that's interesting. I think Maxime Renault from Stanford is a really skilled big, probably tends more towards the 4 than the 5, but 7-footer that can step out and shoot and just make shots, make baskets, obviously knows how to play. I think, he's someone that they could be considering, and maybe a little bit deeper, a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, who has a 7'6" wingspan and doesn't foul out of games and makes a lot of shots near the basket. Those are all possibilities. Or if they want to go point guard, Nolan Traore, who some say will be a point guard eventually, from France, is another guy that is a possibility. He's a young kid, though, and I don't think he's really ready to come in and contribute right away.
That's Bobby Gerald, always dropping knowledge. Hoop obsession. And I know sometimes spelling. Obsession's one of those words.
Tricky one?
It's a little bit. OBSESSION, hoopobsession.com, or you could just Google basketball knowledge studs. And it's probably going to be the first thing that pops up. Bobby Gerald joining us as he does whenever we need to learn things. Bob, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to go eat some foie gras now. And is that how you say it, Jay?
It's foie gras, but I say it as.
Is that the kind of stuff you like to see on a menu, Dave?
No, dude. I'm cool with not spreading goose liver on some bread. I'm just going to say. By the way, it not only is it taste weird and gross, but also anytime you want to have some fun, and by fun I mean cry, and I'm not Mr. PETA guy, but just Google how foie gras comes to bear, and it's not.
No thanks.
The goose is having zero fun with this, I can promise you that.
Well, right. I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that then. So maybe
good.
I'll have some braised lamb liver now, or
there you go, and some sweetbreads.
Yeah.
I bet I wonder how your dad's a foodie. I wonder how he feels about all that
stuff.
But
he's a foodie in a different sense.
That's
so
true.
He's not a foo-foo foodie. That's true. See, we call it foo-foo.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't like the foo-foo. My dad likes meat
fried
and potatoes.
Chicken. Yeah.
Chili dogs.
Yeah.
Has he ever had a hot dog before?
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's the chili dog king.
Yes.
Have a good rest of your day, brother. Talk to you soon.
See you guys.
All right, take care. That is Bobby Gerald. And I want to remind you, by the way, the text line is 916-339.